Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. The buddy that's on here today is a true inspiration. I mean, he has done so much great stuff over his career, and more importantly, he's helped so many people achieve the same thing through his Next Level by Association group. I could go on with all the accolades, but if we do, we're going to waste the entire half hour. So Bob Donnell, welcome to Champions of Inspiration.
Thanks, Scott. Welcome. I appreciate the welcoming.
It's funny because we didn't plan any particular topic or whatever, because I find when you and I get together and talk, we just kind of hit the things that need to be shared anyway. Yeah. So what's on your heart right now? Anything in particular?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's on my heart right now is this talk that I'm going to be doing again tonight. That's about you don't have to understand to be understanding. And it's just that idea that, too often we think, well, I don't understand what he's going through. So, or I think I understand what he's going through. So blank. And I think if we just slow the roll, as they say, slow the roll a little bit and just go, I don't need to understand, but I do need to be understanding.
I think it's a fabulous point. I think the key is having the desire, make the decision to be compassionate.
Amen.
To be
Agreed.
Empathetic, right? Empathetic by definition is simply being able to feel the other person. Like you say, not necessarily understand.
Right.
But to feel what they might be feeling at this point. Can you put yourself in their shoes?
Right.
So I think that's a fabulous point. I think there's so much stuff going on these days.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
That people are chasing knowledge. They're chasing the knowledge of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Which they're never going to grasp, which means they're never going to have the understanding. This might be a long answer or a long tail here, but it just seems to me that they'll never be able to understand everything that needs to be understood right now.
Yeah, I used to, I had a whiteboard wall at my house down in Newport, and it was just one whole wall made with whiteboard paint. So you could do anything you wanted on it. And I used to ask my class, I'd say, if this wall represents everything there is to know about blank, sales, speaking, coaching, personal development, everything was this wall represent everything there is to know. How much of it do you think you know? And almost everyone would unequivocally say a dot. They'd just say that. And I'd go, I agree. Here's what I found. Every time we want to solve a problem, we go back to that which we know, which is only a dot of everything that's possible. What if we just say, I don't care what I know about that subject, about empathy, about compassion, about love, acceptance, everything. If we just said, I don't care about what I know. I want to ask, what do I not know? And how can I apply that? Yeah. And it's a shift. It's a major shift. And it served me really, really well over the years.
Well, that's absolutely a brilliant concept there, because I agree with you. We tend to fall into our paradigms, a set of rules by which we make decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And we see a lot of that today, which is part and parcel why my platform is really to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet.
Love that.
Respect is how I treat you. Honor is how I lift you up. Dignity is the feeling we both have as we walk away from that situation. Yeah. I don't have to agree with you on everything.
Nope.
But I should respect that you have an opinion and it might be different.
Right.
And honor you for that decision so that we can show dignity together and we can come to a more common ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I agree with you. I think that we tend to look at it only from our frame of reference. My daughter, as we were sharing before we started, my daughter was just here. She's 32 years old. I know you find this hard to believe. She thinks differently than I do. So we can be talking about the exact same event, and we've got similar yet different takes on that event.
Absolutely.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, though. You just said the key thing. I think we have to be okay with that. And those of us that at one point or another weren't okay with having a different opinion, that's where we get stuck in the quagmire of all the weeds, and we don't ever see out of that. I think that ability to just go, I'm okay with having a different opinion and them having a different opinion. And I might learn something in the process. One of the things I ask a lot of my coaching clients is, are you even entertaining the possibility that everything you think you know is wrong?
Yeah,
Because if
that's a
can't
great
entertain that
question.
thought, if they can't entertain that thought, that's where we got to begin.
Well, it's interesting because, what just popped up in me, and we're both believers and
Right.
whatever, we don't hide that fact from anybody. In fact,
none.
we're proud of that fact.
Yes.
But I learned when I was in Singapore speaking one time, it's where I created my pre-event prayer. I looked out of the crowd and there were like 5,600 people. There was the biggest crowd I was going to be in front of up until that point.
Wow.
And I went, I need some extra power. And so I created, my pre-event prayer. Lord, allow the words I share here today to positively impact 100% of the lives in the audience here today. Only you know who you sent here to hear this message. Allow me to do the best I can to deliver that message, be a vehicle and of service to you.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden I felt rip roaring, and they called me on stage, and I went, hello, Singapore. Let's start this out right. Lord, allow the words that I shared. And I gave it to the audience.
Wow.
And I had just created it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And multiple parts of the story. But I came off a stage and there were 4 Muslim women that met me at the bottom of the stage and said, Mr. Scott, we want to get a picture made with you. And I said, well, that'd be awesome. But hear my heart, I don't believe I really know your culture. I didn't think you did a lot of that. They said, we don't. We only take pictures of people or things we want to honor. And I said, well, that's very nice. Why would you want to honor me? And they said, because you made us cry. I said, okay, now you're confusing me. Why would you want to honor me for making you cry? They said, because for the first time in our lives, you encouraged us to have faith. You didn't try to convert us. For that, we honor you.
Wow.
And I learned, so it was my responsibility to be a living example of my belief.
Yeah.
And do the best I could to be that representative. But it was also their best, their task was to be a representative of their belief. We don't necessarily have to have the exact same belief.
Yeah.
But we do have to have the respect of each other to honor those beliefs and then have a civil conversation.
Yeah, civil conversation, boy, that's a talking point that we could beat for a while, because how do you have a civil conversation about a civil unrest, right? Yeah. Some of the stuff that's gone on in the world in the last few years and still going on. There's a lot of civil unrest. And so how do you have a civil conversation about that? And I think it goes, like you were just talking, having compassion, having empathy, and then even taking that to that degree with, I don't have to be right. I believe I am, but I don't have to be. And then to say, tell me your side. Tell me what's really going on. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you think that? Why do you feel that? Put it in different ways for them to digest, feel, think, see, all of those kind of things. And I think the more we do that, and if we're seeking to really understand versus seeking to prove them wrong,
Yes.
then we can have that civil conversation. And I think we just have to have that going into it so that we can come out of it with a civil conversation.
Well, that's to a certain, I totally agree with you. I think that's part of where I was going with all this is those folks grew up in Singapore or in Malaysia, in that area.
Yeah.
And therefore had different influences, and their parents had different influences. And I believe what I believe because of what was modeled for me or imparted on me. Well, it's reasonable to believe that they believe what they believe because of what was modeled for them and imparted on them.
True.
And it's nobody, I'm pretty sure on my birth certificate, it didn't say, here comes the judge, right?
Yeah.
You
And
know,
here's another thought that I really think that I'd like your input on. I remember there's a lot of stuff with Will Smith right now. So this was before that, long before the infamous thing. But this thing that he had many years, like 2007, 2008, he caught a lot of flack because he said that he didn't believe that, paraphrasing, to the effect that Adolf Hitler set out to do something wrong. Like he believed that he was doing the right thing. And I remember thinking about that and contemplating and really digesting all the different angles of it and hearing all the backlash he was getting, all this stuff. And I remember thinking, you know, I see what he's saying. I don't think that Adolf Hitler woke up and said, let's see how evil I can be today.
right.
Somewhere in his psyche, he believed he was doing the right thing, even though it was completely wrong. I completely, detest it. Somewhere in his psyche, he had convinced himself or had been convinced that this was the right thing to do. And you think about that and you go, how many of the things do we do that we think are the right thing because of, like you say, the way we were predisposition, the way we were raised, or, a faulty belief that we have about one thing that leads to a faulty belief about another thing.
Right.
I mean, can we come to to grips with the possibility that some of these people that we think are being so evil, and their actions are definitely evil, maybe didn't start out as being evil?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think that that's one of the things that I suggest is you have to walk a mile in other people's shoes. And I don't think people are inherently evil. I think they are inherently here to expand the greater good and the general experience for all.
Yeah.
And so again, if you hold that thought, again, I would agree with you that I don't think anybody sets out to be purposefully bad to another.
Right.
Now, over time, can some of the influences all of a sudden they make a ton of money, or they get a ton of accolades, or they're all of a sudden lifted onto a pedestal? Can they lose and go into an ego state where that continues, right? They
Right.
perpetuate the evil. All of a sudden something happens, they either they get away with it or they get congratulated for it.
Yeah.
And who
Yeah.
doesn't want to be congratulated?
Sure.
So they
That
do it
just feeds the
again.
beast, right?
Well, exactly. It's like, and it's too easy to talk about that from a money standpoint, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're talking about, but I think it's, from status. And well, we were just talking about the difference between an influencer and a connector,
Absolutely.
right? A connector is looking for the greater good, the end result, the putting something of value together that's greater than when it started.
Hmm.
And the influencer many times is just like, hey, what do I get out of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'll build this connection if.
Exactly. Here, I've got this string attached. Don't worry, it's not that big a string. Well, it might be a cable. Well, no, it's actually pretty strong.
Or it might be a noose.
It might be, yes, which that is not good.
No,
For
no.
sure. So no, I agree with you. I think that again, and Chris Dunham, who was really, in essence, Zig Ziglar's road assistant. I mean, he was with Zig for 22 years, day in and day out. I mean, he was the guy who was alongside there. Zig brought him to Christ and taught him so much. Well, Chris came to the country with $9 in his pocket and a dream. And he's just a phenomenal speaker if you ever get the chance to listen to him. But when we were on tour together back, gosh, this is probably 2012, 10 years ago, my God. And he started almost every presentation with, political correctness will be the death of us all. Whew.
Well,
And
that right there. End of statement. Drop the mic. Walk
yeah,
off.
drop mic, right? And
Yeah.
here's an Indian immigrant
Hmm.
who came to the country with $9. And that's the way he would open up his presentation when we were in the big arenas.
Wow.
And I used to listen to that statement. And I mean, oh my God, it's become that personified. It is so crazy. We can't, one one of my friends, very brilliant from stage, probably a year and a half ago, said, you know, if you really want to improve the quality of your life, learn to become unoffendable.
Ooh,
How powerful is that?
that's another one. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so
Huge.
the combination of the two, the political correctness crud, I
Mhm.
mean, the debates we're getting over some of the, for you and I, very silly stuff, for some
Yeah,
people, very serious stuff.
very serious. Yeah.
But it goes to what you're talking about. They believe so wholeheartedly in that they're willing to break other norms to get the point across, which
Mhm.
is not proving to be productive.
Yeah.
Trying to say this nicely.
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. You know, my friend Wesley, you and I have this conversation about offending God a lot, and we've both come to the conclusion, and we both shared our own thoughts, and one of the thoughts that we come away with is, if you can offend God, maybe maybe he's not the God that we think he is.
Right.
God is he's so much bigger than what we give him credit for. And you hear a joke and you think, oh, well, that's sacrilegious, and I think that there's times when there is sacrilegious. I'm not saying there's not, but by and large, the thing that people are Christians are offended by are probably things that God just kind of smirks at and goes, really? You think that's going to bother me? I'm God. I'm God. If you even try to define me, you've already done a disservice to mankind because you can't define me. And I just love that idea that man, being unoffendable. Whew, that's
Yeah.
powerful.
When I first heard it, it was so powerful because it's like, it goes back to a teaching that, I did a whole bunch with Jack Canfield for a lot of years.
Mhm.
And Jack teaches a concept of green hair. If I were to say, Bob, I can't believe you've got green hair,
Right.
right? You can respond multiple ways. You can be a shrinking violet and go, oh my God, I'm being picked on. Look, it's being said I have green hair. Oh, poor me. Go into the victim mode.
Right.
Or you can say, wow, Scott brought this up about me because he knows I've got a strong self-esteem. He knows I'm a powerful speaker and trainer. He knows that I can handle whatever he throws at me. I wonder where he's going with this conversation. I don't have green hair.
Right.
Right. And so it's kind of the concept when people are throwing all this stuff out about, your, I mean, the word right now is everything becomes racist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, now, if you're not, don't respond to it.
Right.
You don't have green hair,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it's like people are trying to justify they don't have green hair.
Right.
It's crazy. We live in a world where, can we just, I was on a show the other day and I was talking about the 2 commandments and the 8 suggestions, right? Love God with all your heart, love thy neighbor like thyself. If you do the first 2, the other 8 will take care of themselves, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Think about it.
Great
Right?
statement. Yeah.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to minimize the 10 commandments,
No.
obviously, but it's kind of just to set the impression of the first 2
Yeah.
is, if we would just love on each other, isn't it amazing what could possibly happen?
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah. That's the
that's one of the
precedent
reasons,
for
quite
everything
frankly, I
else.
want to say this.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I respect you so much.
Hmm.
Really is.
Wow.
I see your leadership in that consistently.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to receive that. Thank you.
Please do.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things that happens with this whole dialogue that we're talking about is we feel the need to defend, we feel the need to promote, or we feel the need to be accepted. And if we just could come to the realization that there is nothing to defend,
Yeah.
and if it's wrong, we don't have to defend it. So why even give it the credit or give it the
Right.
time, energy? And then the idea that we just can be who we are and be striving to be better all the time. But the realization is that the byproduct of becoming better is blank. The byproduct of those first two commandments is blank. And
Right.
be okay with the process, I think, is one of the biggest things that it's hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm terrible at it. For the most part, I'm much better than I used to be, but still terrible at it because I don't always trust the process, even though I should.
Yeah, well, that's actually I loved one of Joyce Meyer's quotes. I'm thank God I'm not what I used to be, nor am I what I'm going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm not yet what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
You know, that we all recognize, whether it be from a spiritual standpoint that we're sinners, that we failed, or from just a human standpoint that we've had some bumps along the road.
Yeah.
You know, and anybody who sits there and says, I don't have any challenges, I haven't had anything go wrong, it's like, number one, you're flat ass lying.
Right.
Because that ain't true.
Right.
We all have that.
Right.
It's not, again, it's not the getting knocked down. It's not the sitting in hold.
Yeah.
We're talking about this on another show the other day. It's easy to have faith at the beginning of a project because you're all excited and enthused about it. It's easy to have faith at the end of the project because you've seen the realization and the results of it.
Right.
It's faith in the middle. That's the hard part.
Amen.
When you're in that middle, when you've started, you're an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. And I know you share this with your coaching clients often, that it's that faith in the middle. It's that piece where, okay, the good news is you got started, you took the action. Woohoo!
Yeah.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
You ain't quite there yet.
Right. Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. One of the things that I've said for 20 years has been, I'm so flawed that I'm perfectly flawed.
Yeah.
And I know that about myself. And then the second thing that I remind myself is that I surround myself with people who know all of my flaws and love me as if I had none.
That's why I love you, because of you got some great writer downers, I call them. You got to write those down. You got to play that back and go, man, I need to write that down. I need to meditate on that.
Thank you.
Because they really are. I mean, they're those things, and I agree with you. I think that's when we drop from here to here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We drop from the intellectual or tactical to the heartfelt, relational, strategic. It's a strategy to love on people.
Yeah, it is. I love that. It's a strategy to love on people. Oof. Again, another one. Great.
Man, there are going to be a bunch of them here. This is Soundbite City here.
There we go, right there.
Oh, it was fun. No, I just, I think that's my mandate, share messages of hope and inspiration, which is why I appreciate you being on the show. Yeah, is how can we do more of that in today's environment?
Yeah, I for me, the number one thing is being present. I just find that most people aren't present enough to be able to do that. I've practiced. It's been a lifelong thing for me to learn how to be present to a conversation, whether it's on video or whether it's on stage or whether it's one-on-one. And the more I teach the connectology pillars, and the more I do connectology lunches and dinners and things like that, the more I realize that people are craving. And my TED Talk is about, what do people crave more than any drug? Connection.
No
How
doubt.
do you, what's the number one thing you have to do to be connected with yourself, with others, or connect others with others? And it's going to boil down to that presence, the ability to just be present, which means shutting up, which means listening with open ears and no prejudgment about what they're saying, what they're going to say, why they're going to say it, but being present enough to really hear the heart above the words. And that I think is going to be the number one thing, that if we can help people learn how to be more present to their conversation with others, even the non-verbal conversation, I think we're gonna be moving the needle in the right direction.
Yeah, totally agree. In That Sucks What Now, my latest book, I wrote about be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Be in that conversation. Don't be looking over your shoulder going, who's the next person I need to talk to or whatever. Another point that I wrote in there is a little boy talking to his dad, trying to get his attention and going, daddy, will you pay attention? Will you work with me? And the dad said, yeah, I'm right here. I'm right here with you. Of course, he's watching a football game and he goes, Daddy, listen with your eyes.
Oh.
Boom.
Okay, turn the TV off and just sit, because that's gonna crush you if you don't.
Yeah, and in the book I write that isn't it interesting that the word listen and silent have the exact same letters in a different order?
Oh, great one. Yeah.
So I totally agree with you from the standpoint of, if you can be present, if you can look people in the eyes, if you can follow their physical gesturing, you can really listen and like you say, listen without a prepared answer.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just take it and run from where it is.
Absolutely. Good
Right?
stuff. Good stuff.
This has been a good one. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this. I love what's going on. So we've got a little bit of time, not a whole bunch, but you've got such great genius. What would you share with people to really become more engaged, more present, more in the moment? How can they do this when there's so much noise going on?
I that's a great question. And I think the biggest thing I've learned over the years is ask better questions. Ask better questions of yourself, ask better questions of others. And it starts with that question we're asking ourselves: why am I in this conversation? Why are you and I having this conversation? Why is someone listening to this conversation? And then asking ourselves that question, and then saying, okay, what questions can I ask beyond that? And in connectology, I teach the quality of your connection will always be determined by the quality of questions that you ask. Questions that you ask of yourself, questions you ask of others. And in that process of asking better questions, we'll get better answers. And I can, if I know what I'm looking for, the second part of this is knowing what you're looking for. If I want you to say 4, but I keep asking you what 2 + 3 is, whose fault is it that you answer the wrong question, or you give the wrong answer?
You gave the answer you weren't anticipating.
Right. So if we learn to say, what is it that I want from this conversation? What is it, when I do an interview or something like this, when I'm having a conversation with people that I really respect and appreciate, I want to say, what is it that I really want out of this conversation, so that I can ask the questions that lead to that answer. But if I wanted you to say 4, I could ask, what's 3 + 1, what's 5 - 1, what's 6 - 2. I could ask a million different questions that lead back to 4. But if I don't know what I'm looking for, I'm always going to be asking a question that may or may not give us the final answer that we want. So I think one is really being present by asking the right questions. And the only way we're going to ask the right questions is know what the answer is that we want first.
Yeah, or at least the direction, for sure. I agreed. It kicked into my head the reticular activation system, right? As soon as you tell the brain what to look for, the brain will find it. So
yes, absolutely.
We've got not nearly enough time to talk about that from that side. Bob, again, doesn't surprise me we've run through the time, but how do people get a hold of you to learn more from your genius?
Yeah, they can go to everythingnextlevel.com, or they can shoot an email to bob@everythingnextlevel.com, and be more than happy to respond and chat with people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today on Champions of Inspiration.
Absolutely. Thank you for the offer, and thank you for your friendship over the years.
Absolutely, for sure. And all of you, thank you for joining us on Champions of Inspiration. We'll see you again tomorrow. God bless.